What's good in the interweb subscribers, and welcome back to Drama with Ted and Tina. Ted, will be your host, narrator of this cheating saga. He thought things were finally settling down, divorce in progress, emotions cooling off, no more drama. Then came unexpected furniture, a decorator with charm, a surprise confession, and an offer that would make most men think twice. Add in a matcha-sipping husband, some brutally honest negotiations, and a breakup letter that might finally close the book for good. This isn't healing, it's war, with paperwork and pie. Let's get into it. So right off the bat, no, Emily isn't in a straitjacket or pacing a padded room. She's at her parents' place, resting, apparently sane by technical standards. She didn't try to off herself, she just launched a chemical attack on our old neighborhood using a backyard grill and a pile of overpriced Guild couture. Sunday evening, I'm reading at the Airbnb when I get a call from my dad in Florida. Turns out, the neighbors thought the house was on fire. What they actually saw was my ex-wife playing discount arsonist with a bonfire made of designer bags, lace thongs, and enough cosmetics to open a Sephora. The kicker? Her mom thought she was still in her room. That family's so emotionally distant they wouldn't notice if she joined a cult as long as it didn't mess up dinner plans. I called the non-emergency line and made it sound like we had a controlled fire incident to avoid Emily getting arrested. Because God forbid we stack a criminal record on top of therapy bills and public humiliation. Then I drove over, not trusting anyone else to put out whatever chemical nightmare she was concocting. Turns out the locks hadn't been changed. Classic miscommunication between my dad and me. By the time I got there, the backyard smelled like if a perfume counter had a death match with a tire fire. I yanked the fire extinguisher from the kitchen, ran outside, and sprayed the hell out of the grill while Emily just blinked at me like I was her spirit animal. She looked awful. Walmart sweats, no makeup, massive claw clip holding up greasy hair. Basically a post-divorce clearance rack version of herself. The shock on her face said it all. She wasn't expecting me. Just divine retribution. She mumbled something about getting rid of everything he touched, which I guess includes her dignity. I told her setting my grill on fire was not how one redeems a shattered marriage. She hugged me. I stood stiff, arms to my side, staring off like I was being held hostage. She kept saying she'd do anything, fix it all herself, no effort required from me. I gave her vague lines like, "We'll see," just to keep her from going full pyromaniac again. Her parents showed up and we all shared a fun little PSA about fire safety and mental stability. Phil found the credit card statements. Mill confessed. Big family fallout, everyone's avoiding each other, not my circus, not my fire. I suggested Emily write a statement to help the woman whose marriage she nuked. She agreed, probably out of desperation. A cop arrived, surveyed the scene, and told us we needed to break up our little domestic terror cell for the evening. Emily left with her parents, still promising to make everything right. I told her to stop playing arson Barbie and go back to work. The chemicals didn't hit the house, thankfully. I hosed down everything, per the officer's advice, and tossed the rest of Emily's designer bonfire pile into a thrift store bin. So if you see a homeless woman rocking a Prada bag and thigh highs, now you know. Meanwhile, my lawyer told me Emily's business started making solid money last August. Great news. She can now afford all the self-help books and antipsychotics her heart desires. Friday night, I went out with Matt and Jim. We pre-gamed. At Matt's and his pregnant wife confiscated my phone like I was a teenager. We hit a weird club bar hybrid, EDM blasting but ESPN on mute in the background. The bartender looked relieved when we ordered bourbon like actual adults. There were way more women than men, and a cute girl in her 20s started chatting me up, thought I was some architect from Nashville. I joked that I only architect my own destruction. Classic deflection. I told her, I'm a developer. We hit it off. She asked for my number, and when I said I didn't have my phone, she gave me hers on a napkin. Not calling. Still felt like cheating, but hey, I made a stranger laugh. Progress. Later, I bumped into a guy from my gym and his girlfriend. He and I were head-nod acquaintances until then. We joked about gym weirdos, but she was weirdly touchy with me. Hand on my chest mid-sentence, flirty body language. I watched her boyfriend the whole time, and either he didn't notice or didn't care. It made me uncomfortable. I told the guys I was out. We bailed to a dive bar, and I blacked out somewhere between beer 3 and bourbon who cares. I woke up on Matt's couch with a headache and his pregnant wife playing nurse. She gave me water, Advil, and my phone, along with the news that Emily's on a redemption tour, telling everyone she had an extended affair with an older man and regrets it deeply. No sugar baby talk, of course. Apparently, Emily's found religion. According to Matt's wife, she's telling mutuals she wants reconciliation and for people to pray for us. I assume Jesus tried to dodge her, but was too slow. She also booked a psychiatrist appointment and bought a bunch of audiobooks about cheating recovery that her Christian counselor recommended. I verified it with my mother-in-law. Apparently, Emily's really commuting back to the salon and not just crying into designer pillows anymore. That's something, I guess. She's focused now, maybe functional, still delusional, but at least she's vertical. My mother-in-law also told me Emily is now handling her side of the divorce. She hired a new lawyer and is actually paying for it herself. She confirmed the titles of the books Emily's reading: How to Help Your Spouse Heal from Your Affair, Surviving Infidelity, Torn Asunder, and Not Just Friends. She's attending church twice a week and making the rounds with her personal confessions. She still paints the affair as a tragic, willful mistake, not a transactional sugar baby mess. I had Jim and his wife go to my old house and strip it of photos, box them and drop them at her parents' place. That earned me a flood of texts about how cruel I was being, as if seeing our wedding photo doesn't hit like a gut punch. I only talk logistics with MIL now. No emotional baggage, no commentary. She's been handling most of the talking anyway. I think she misses the company. She's become a full-time plant lady, and apparently April's a busy season in that weird little world. I'll check back in when the lawyers start round 2. Hopefully this time no fires, no sobbing, and no chemical warfare. But honestly, with Emily, I wouldn't bet against it. On Tuesday, my mother-in-law dropped off a few containers of soup and some homemade bread. She didn't ask to come in, just left them on the porch and texted me after she drove off. There was no note, no sermon, just a quiet gesture. I stared at the bag for a long minute before picking it up. The smell hit me immediately. Chicken and rice, something Emily used to make when we were first married. That memory landed like a gut punch. I didn't even eat it that night, just shoved it in the fridge and sat on the couch, staring at the ceiling like it owed me answers. Later, I texted my mother-in-law a simple thanks. She responded with, "Take care of yourself." The irony of hearing that from the woman whose daughter lit my emotional house on fire wasn't lost on me. I'm still not sure what to make of her. Some days I want to cut off everyone with Emily's DNA, but she's been steady in her own awkward way. She never defends Emily, doesn't beg for reconciliation or try to explain things that can't be explained. She just talks about plants, weather, her neighbors' dogs. It's like she's offering up this bland, normal world as a lifeline, when mine still smells like burned silk and fire extinguisher powder. I guess I'm taking it. God help me, I even asked her how to keep a fern from dying. Maybe forgiveness doesn't start with a grand gesture. Maybe it starts with soup, dead houseplants, and a text that doesn't ask for anything. Emily emailed me last night. Not a wall of text, not a desperation dump. Just a clean, composed message with the subject line, "I understand." She said she finally gets that this isn't a phase or a dramatic pause in our marriage, that I'm not punishing her. I'm done. She thanked me for not retaliating, for not publicly humiliating her the way she might have deserved. Said she respected my decision, would honor the process, and hoped one day I'd look back on the good years without bitterness. It almost sounded mature, which, in Emily terms, is like watching a toddler politely set down a tantrum. For a second, I believed she meant it. Then I remembered the bonfire of lingerie and luxury handbags, and the last shreds of empathy I had curled up and died. My lawyer thinks it's a strategic email, a breadcrumb for future courtroom sympathy, but it read too raw to be calculated. If anything, it felt like someone finally taking the first step into the acceptance stage, right after denial, anger, bargaining, and backyard arson. I didn't reply. There's nothing left to say that wouldn't feel like giving her a reason to keep hoping. I forwarded the email to my attorney with a note. Archive it. That's all it is now. Evidence of a slow, painful unraveling. No drama, no scorched earth, just another loose thread from a life I'm trying to untangle without burning my fingers. I finally took a real look at the house again. Not just a drive-by check-in or a 5-minute sweep for damage. I walked through it, alone. Quiet, no music, no distractions. Just me and whatever ghosts were still clinging to the drywall. The bedroom still smelled faintly like her perfume, like citrus and regret. The closet was emptier than I remembered, but her old curling iron was still plugged in, a relic of her last desperate dash. In the bathroom, I found one of her bobby pins tucked behind the sink faucet, like a tiny glittery booby trap. I tossed it in the trash and flushed the toilet, just to hear something get pulled away. I spent the next hour boxing up everything that still had her fingerprints, photos, old gifts, makeup in the cabinet, a lone wine glass with lipstick she never washed off. There was a moment in the kitchen when I opened a drawer and saw the measuring spoons we bought on our honeymoon in St. Augustine. I froze, hand hovering over them, thinking about how she made lemon bars once and kissed powdered sugar off my nose like we were invincible. Then I closed the drawer and didn't open it again. Some memories don't deserve the dignity of a goodbye. They just need to be sealed off like asbestos, acknowledged, then avoided. The realtor's coming next week. I'm selling the house. It's not mine anymore. It's a mausoleum. I finally took a real look at the house again, not just a drive-by check-in or a 5-minute sweep for damage. I walked through it. Alone. Quiet. No music, no distractions, just me and whatever ghosts were still clinging to the drywall. The bedroom still smelled faintly like her perfume, like citrus and regret. The closet was emptier than I remembered, but her old curling iron was still plugged in, a relic of her last desperate dash. In the bathroom, I found one of her bobby pins tucked behind the sink faucet, like a tiny, glittery booby trap. I tossed it in the trash and flushed the toilet, just to hear something get pulled away. I spent the next hour boxing up everything that still had her fingerprints. Photos, old gifts, makeup in the cabinet, a lone wine glass with lipstick she never washed off. There was a moment in the kitchen when I opened a drawer and saw the measuring spoons we bought on our honeymoon in St. Augustine. I froze, hand hovering over them, thinking about how she made lemon bars once and kissed powdered sugar off my nose like we were invincible. Then I closed the drawer and didn't open it again. Some memories don't deserve the dignity of a goodbye. They just need to be sealed off like asbestos. Acknowledged, then avoided. The realtor's coming next week. I'm selling the house. It's not mine anymore. It's a mausoleum. Matt helped me take the last few boxes to storage. He didn't say much, which I appreciated. There's a certain kind of silence only close friends can offer, one that doesn't demand you fill it. Afterward, we grabbed lunch at a place downtown that used to be one of Emily's favorites. I didn't plan that. It just happened. When I realized it, I almost suggested leaving, but I didn't want her to own any more of my... I sat down, ordered, and ate like it was any other overpriced sandwich in a gentrified cafe. The waiter even asked if I'd been there before, and I lied. First time. Felt good. Felt small. But good. Back at the Airbnb, I opened a storage bin labeled office stuff and found one of our old wedding invites tucked into a book of passwords. Heavy cardstock, embossed letters, a photo of us looking like two idiots who thought they'd cracked the code. I held it for a moment, not out of sentiment, but morbid curiosity. The date, the venue, the vow we made to not become our parents. How poetic! I shredded it and dumped it into the trash like expired takeout. Some promises rot faster than others. I stood there afterward, waiting to feel something, anger, sadness, nostalgia, but all I felt was tired, and that, in itself, felt like progress. Emily's father called me this morning. That was a first. We've barely spoken since the fallout began, and when we did, it was strained politeness layered over obvious guilt. But today, he sounded different, less defensive, less broken. He wanted to let me know they'd finally sat down with Emily for what he called a come-to-Jesus talk, though I imagine Jesus would have passed on that meeting. He said she cried the entire time but admitted to everything again. No sugarcoating, no blame-shifting, no spiritual excuses, just raw ownership. He told me he was proud of her, which I found ironic, considering how far she had to fall to finally hit honesty. Then he thanked me for not dragging her publicly, for being patient. I almost laughed, but I didn't. I just said, I did what I had to do. He asked if I'd ever consider speaking with her. Not to reconcile, just to talk. I told him that right now, the best thing I can give Emily is silence. She's finally moving forward, and any words from me, kind or cruel, would just confuse the path she's on. He said he understood, and I believed him. There was something tired in his voice, like a man who's finally accepting his daughter isn't who he thought she was. When we hung up, I just sat there holding the phone, staring out the window, thinking how strange it is that forgiveness always starts with the people least responsible for the damage. I ran into Bev at the grocery store. I was in the frozen aisle debating if I could live off microwave burritos for another week when I heard her voice behind me, half surprised, half hesitant. Hey. Wow, you look good. Which is always code for you don't look like a complete wreck anymore. She was dressed for yoga but pushing a cart full of wine and pre-cut fruit. We made awkward small talk. She asked how I was holding up and I gave her the safe, sterilized version. Good, work steady, getting back into a routine. She nodded like she didn't believe a word of it, which was fair. Then she asked if I'd seen Emily lately. I said no. She said Emily looked different last time they met. Quieter. Like something in her had collapsed and never fully inflated again. Bev asked if I hated her, Emily, I mean. I didn't answer right away. I just looked down at the frozen shelf like the box of taquitos had the answers. I told her I don't hate Emily. I'm just exhausted. Hate takes energy. Hate implies I'm still emotionally invested in whatever happens next, but I'm not. Emily burned down the bridge, poured gasoline in the river, and now she's waving smoke signals from the other side. Bev didn't press it. She just nodded, gave me a quick hug, and said, "You'll be okay." Then she walked off, and I watched her go like someone leaving a room I no longer lived in. The realtor came by yesterday. She was all business, clipboard in hand, heels clicking like a countdown across the hardwood. She asked if I wanted to stage the place, maybe add warmth for buyers. I nearly laughed in her face. What's warmer than the psychic residue of betrayal and accidental arson? I told her to list it as is. No candles, no fluff pillows, no fake bowls of lemons. Just a house that used to mean something. She walked through each room with her phone out, taking notes, snapping pictures. When we got to the master bedroom, she paused and asked if I was sure. I told her yes. I don't sleep here. I don't dream here. I just visit now like a reluctant tour guide through the ruins of my own optimism. She gave me an estimate and said it'd sell quickly. Good bones, good neighborhood, minimal fire damage. I wanted to correct her. There's nothing minimal about what burned here, but I just nodded, signed the listing paperwork, and handed over the keys. When she left, I stood on the front step for a while, holding the deadbolt like it might shock some clarity into me. Then I let go. The door clicked shut behind me, and for the first time, I didn't feel like something important was ending. I felt like something toxic was finally being released into the wild. Someone else's fixer-upper, someone else's problem. I hope they repaint the kitchen. I hope they never learn what she burned on that grill. I got an email from Lisa today. Not long, just a few lines. She said she wanted to thank me for staying honest throughout everything, for not letting Emily spin a version of the story where she was coerced, or confused, or just lost. Lisa said it helped her feel less alone. That word alone hit harder than I expected. We've both been orbiting the same black hole, watching our marriages implode under the weight of the same man. Different explosions, same gravity. She told me her divorce was finalized last week. No drama, no fights, just paperwork, signatures, silence. She said it felt more like a mercy killing than a legal proceeding. I get it. She didn't ask to meet up, didn't open any doors, just closed one and let me know I wasn't the only one walking away from the ashes. I didn't reply right away. I sat with it. Thought about how strange it is that the two people most wrecked by this whole thing have never really talked. Not deeply, just passing empathy in digital form. And maybe that's enough. Maybe we're two survivors of the same storm, waving from different rooftops. I finally wrote back, "Thank you, I hope peace finds you. I meant it. I hope she finds it before I do. Someone should." I finally called my mom back. She's been leaving voicemails for weeks, alternating between worried check-ins and subtle guilt trips like she couldn't decide if she wanted to comfort me or drag me back into the emotional fold. I chose a Sunday morning when I knew she'd be sipping tea and watching her church live stream, hoping she'd be too distracted to spiral. She picked up on the second ring. Her voice cracked when she said my name. It always does when she's been crying. She asked how I was doing and I told her the truth. Better than I was. Not as good as I will be. She didn't press. Eventually, she said she still couldn't believe it, that Emily always seemed so perfect. I told her that was the problem. Emily knew how to be perfect in public, knew how to smile through decay. My mom apologized for not seeing it sooner. I told her not to blame herself. I lived with her and didn't see it either. She asked if I thought I'd ever get married again. Right now, love feels like a debt I don't want to borrow from. She got quiet after that and then said she was proud of me. I don't know if I deserved it, but I said thank you. We stayed on the line a while, not talking much, just existing. Sometimes that's enough. My brother texted me out of nowhere with a meme about divorce, something dumb, two skeletons in wedding clothes sitting on a couch with the caption, "Till death do us part" was a group project. I stared at it for a second, unsure if I should laugh or launch my phone into the nearest wall. Then I did both, internally. I sent back a thumbs up emoji and waited. He replied, "You good?" I said, "Define good." He sent a beer emoji. That's our language, muted concern wrapped in sarcasm. Later that night, he called. No agenda, just casual conversation that veered into heavier stuff, like it always does when we both have a drink in hand and a bad week in our rear view. He told me he always had a weird feeling about Emily, said there was something curated about her, like she was always performing a version of herself for whoever was watching. I wish he'd told me that 5 years ago. Then again, I probably wouldn't have listened. Love is loud, warnings are whispers. He said he was proud of me, in that older brother who never says it kind of way. Told me not to let this define me. I wanted to tell him that it already has. That I can feel it reshaping me every day like scar tissue learning how to move. But instead I just said, I'm working on it. Because I am. Slowly. Unevenly, but forward all the same. Emily sent another message, this time through my lawyer, a handwritten letter, scanned and emailed as part of the settlement correspondence. It wasn't legally necessary, just her trying to wedge herself back into the margins of the process. The letter was 4 pages long, 4 pages of carefully worded sorrow, responsibility, romanticized memories, and the kind of flowery regret that sounds more like a eulogy for the image of us than the reality. She wrote about our first trip to Charleston, how I held her hand during turbulence, how I made her laugh so hard once she cried, how she forgot who she was before me, and how losing me reminded her. I read it all, once, quietly, then forwarded it to my attorney with no comment. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there for a while after, numb in a way that wasn't emptiness, but something quieter. Acceptance, maybe. I used to beg the universe for a moment like this, a shred of acknowledgement, a sign that she finally understood what she'd destroyed. And now that I had it, it felt weightless, like she mailed me ashes and expected me to rebuild the house. My attorney asked if I wanted to respond. I said no. Some letters aren't meant to be answered. They're meant to sit in inboxes like gravestones, proof that something died and someone cared enough to mark the spot. The house sold faster than I expected. Full asking price, no contingencies. Young couple with a baby on the way. They walked through it once, smiled at the kitchen, and said something about making memories. I wanted to warn them. Not about ghosts or foundation issues, but about the invisible weight baked into the walls, about what it feels like to love someone in a space and then learn it was all built on a fault line. But I didn't. I just signed the papers, handed over the last spare key, and wished them well. They were so happy. I remembered being that happy. I remembered Emily holding up swatches for the guest room, barefoot in that exact hallway, humming along to some playlist. I remembered thinking, this is it. This is home. Turns out, home isn't a place, it's a person, and when that person betrays you, the house becomes a monument to your own gullibility. After the sale, I stood in the empty living room for a final moment. It didn't feel like closure, just absence. Like a theater after the lights go up, and all that's left is gum under the seats and echoes of the actors pretending. I whispered goodbye. To what? I'm not sure. Her? The version of me that loved her? Or the future we were supposed to have? Then I turned off the lights, locked the door, and walked away without looking back. Some chapters don't deserve rereading. They're better left dog-eared and discarded, filed under never again. I moved into a new apartment last week. Nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms, decent light, quiet neighbors who keep to themselves. The kind of place you pick when you're not looking to impress anyone, just trying to survive in peace. There's still cardboard everywhere, but the essentials are unpacked. My bed, my desk, my coffee maker. I haven't hung anything on the walls yet. Part of me thinks I never will. There's a strange comfort in bare walls now. Like a blank page that doesn't expect anything from me. No memories baked into the paint. No lipstick stains on the mirrors. Just silence. Jim helped me move, cracked open beers before the last box hit the floor. He said the place felt bachelor hopeful. I told him, I'm not sure I'm even in the market for hope yet. He shrugged and said, you don't need to be. Just don't wall yourself off so hard you forget what it feels like to let light in. Easy for him to say. His wife didn't treat their marriage like a networking opportunity with benefits. Still, I appreciated it. He left me with a plant, something low maintenance, allegedly unkillable. I named it Kevin. It's already leaning sideways like it's reconsidering its life choices. Same, Kevin, same. I saw Emily again, total accident. I was at the pharmacy picking up cold meds when she walked in with her mother trailing behind her like some worn-out, emotional chaperone. Emily didn't see me at first, but her mother did. Her eyes widened like she wasn't sure if she should wave or throw herself into a shelf of greeting cards. I nodded. That was enough. But then Emily turned and saw me too. She froze. Just stood there, prescription bag in one hand, car keys in the other, like if she moved too fast, I might vanish. I didn't. I didn't say a word. Just finished paying and walked past her like she was a stranger wearing a memory. I made it to the door before she said my name. Soft, like she was testing it out loud again. I turned. She looked fragile. Smaller than I remembered. Not in size, just in presence. Like whatever spark she used to carry had dimmed under all that weight she stacked on herself. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't apologize. She just said, you look better. I said, I am. And I meant it. She nodded, eyes glassy, and her mother stepped between us like she was afraid Emily might implode on the tile. Maybe she would have. I walked out. Didn't look back. Didn't need to. I didn't feel angry or sad. I just felt done. And that, more than anything, felt like healing. A week after that run-in, my lawyer called to confirm that everything's finalized. Divorce decree filed, no loose ends, no last-minute drama. It was done. 6 years together, 1 legal signature, and a quiet click as the paperwork hit the digital archive. I sat at my desk and stared at the email for a long time. I thought there'd be some grand emotional release, a moment where the sky cracks open and you feel reborn, but it wasn't like that. It was quiet. Like walking out of a burning building, realizing the flames are finally behind you, and all that's left is smoke in your lungs and the echo of your own footsteps. I didn't celebrate. No shots, no party. Just ordered takeout, sat on the floor with Kevin the plant judging me from the windowsill, and watched reruns of a show I used to love before I became someone who needed shows to drown out silence. At some point between bites, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. Not numb, not sad, just free. Emily's voice, her perfume, her laughter echoing from a past life. They all felt like someone else's story now, a character I used to play in a relationship that turned out to be fiction. It doesn't feel like victory. But it definitely doesn't feel like loss anymore either. It just feels like me. Still here. Still breathing. And finally, moving forward. It's strange how quiet peace is. No fireworks, no dramatic closure. Just long mornings where the air doesn't feel heavy anymore. I started running again, nothing impressive. Half-hearted jogs through side streets and uneven sidewalks, but the motion helps. So does the stillness that follows. I deleted the shared playlists last night, not out of spite. Just finally realized I didn't need music to remember who I was when I was in love with her. I don't need a soundtrack for heartbreak anymore. Just silence, and the sound of my own steps getting farther away from the mess she left behind. I finally feel like I'm not orbiting her anymore. I'm not reacting to her next move, her apology tour, her grief-soaked declarations of growth. She can heal on her own terms. I'm no longer collateral in her journey. I'm my own person again, no longer defined by what she did or what she ruined. That realization didn't hit like a lightning bolt. It crept in, gentle and solid, like the feeling of sun on your face after too many months of winter. Maybe healing isn't some triumphant moment. Maybe it's just waking up and realizing that for once, nothing hurts. I'm not bitter. I'm not broken. I'm just here, alive, whole, and free. The owner of the Airbnb I've been staying at during this whole ordeal started having furniture delivered, and somehow I've become the unofficial labor force. I've pushed, assembled, and staged everything short of a full remodel. In the living room, I set up this massive TV like it was the centerpiece of an alien throne room. Coffee table in front, 2 armchairs behind that, and then the couch behind them. It looked apparently like Star Trek, according to the interior decorator the owner hired, who burst out laughing when she walked in and saw my handiwork. To be fair, it was a little command center adjacent. But I redeemed myself with raw caveman strength, hauling furniture like an ox on Adderall. She was impressed. So much so that she offered me a job. At the end of it all, I blurted out, "Are you flirting with me because I have the emotional awareness of a half-baked crouton?" She smirked, said yes, and handed me her card like she was casting a spell. I called my lawyer and asked if going on a date was legal, and she slapped me metaphorically upside the head. Apparently, I can't commit adultery while navigating an at-fault divorce for adultery. Fine, I won't go from cheated-on husband to technical cheater just because someone with cheekbones and a British accent thinks I look good with a power drill. Still, she looked like a Bollywood star. I guess I know now that I'll get some attention again once I'm legally single. It is prom season, after all. I unblocked Bev's husband and messaged him. We met up for coffee. Or so I thought. The man ordered an iced matcha latte like we were about to film a YouTube skincare routine. He's older than me, built like an NFL lineman, works construction, and somehow made that pale green drink look like a threat. We were mostly acquaintances before, tied together only by our wives and their mutual descent into sabotage after the usual small talk. I asked him how things were with Bev. He said he'd suspected something was up. She was texting constantly, giggling, acting like a teenager with a secret. He feared it was an emotional affair. Turns out, he wasn't far off. She confessed, not to cheating physically, but to emotionally riding shotgun on Emily's little luxury affair tour, living vicariously through her. According to her, Emily's stories of hotel room service, spa days, boutique shopping, and gourmet dinners were like Bravo TV with insider access. Bev even encouraged her to squeeze in one last fling before settling down. She said, I'd never find out, and if I did, she was sure I'd leave. On that point, she was absolutely right. Her husband realized that if she could do this, treat his marriage like reality television, then she was capable of doing a lot more. He told her he wanted a divorce. But Bev went into crisis control mode, blocked Emily, nuked her socials, opened her devices, booked therapy, and even went back to work. Nail tech, apparently. Big money in fingertips. Bev's husband dropped $400, 0 cents on a legal consult, only to find out that what she did, while morally disgusting, didn't legally qualify as adultery. Apparently, watching your best friend blowtorch someone else's marriage for spa perks doesn't get you burned in court. The lawyers said it'd be a no-fault divorce, and because she's the primary caregiver, she'd likely get majority custody. Financially, he'd get steamrolled, so now he's stuck between his self-respect and a system that rewards stability over truth. He decided to stay. Not because he forgave her, not because he trusts her again. He doesn't. He's just not willing to lose time with his son. And when he showed me videos of the kid, honestly, I get it. I don't know much about toddlers, but that little guy had the kind of smile that could melt granite. He said Bev's been serious about cutting ties, deleted her accounts, limited Facebook to just family, and hasn't spoken to Emily since. He told me flat out that if it weren't for their son, he'd be gone. Then he looked at me and said he respected my stance because he couldn't have stayed if Emily had been his wife. No kids? That kind of betrayal? He shook his head. I'd have packed her shit in designer bags and lit it myself. For a guy sipping powdered green tea, that was impressively savage. I thanked him, not for the advice, for the clarity. Sometimes you need someone else's story to remind you how far gone yours really was. Emily's new attorney sent over a proposal, and naturally, she wanted a face-to-face meeting. I declined. I've had enough of her fashionable remorse meets courtroom cosplay performances. Let's just rapid-fire our legal nonsense and call it a day. The offer read like a reality show contract, with bonus clauses for trauma. If she cheats again, emotionally, physically, digitally, or by even breathing near an Italian cologne sample, I get 75% of our liquid assets and up to $100.00 from her business profits over the 3 years prior. The postnup had a dictionary-sized definition of infidelity, so no loopholes like, it wasn't sex, it was just tantric networking. If I cheat, it's a no-fault split. 50/50, no alimony either way. She pays for both attorneys and replenishes the $10.00 emergency fund. Full financial disclosure, device access for 7 years, and if she so much as thinks about owning a burner phone, I get everything short of her soul. Also included, mandatory counseling, therapists picked by me, no contact with John or his businesses, and if she must style a wedding at his venue, she sends a goat instead. Oh, and if we somehow survive 10 years of this dystopian love contract, the postnup dissolves like it never existed. Romantic, right? My lawyer said it's solid, enforceable, and surprisingly generous. I told her thanks, but no thanks. My non-negotiables remain: at-fault adultery on record, no alimony, I keep my $401k, and preferably, she foots my legal bill. Let Emily bargain with karma. I'm done trading with ghosts. Outside the Lawyer Thunderdome, life marches on. Lisa's still divorcing John, and Emily, miraculously, came through. She handed over the affidavit and even offered to testify, which is honestly the least she could do after steamrolling Lisa's marriage for a taste of boutique-bought validation. John's dignity must be on life support because every woman he's bedded has turned on him with the precision of a tactical strike. Maybe if he'd prioritize someone else's needs once in a while, he wouldn't be hemorrhaging relationships. Kegels, John. Learn them. Lisa's kids want nothing to do with him now, and he's crying parental alienation, like telling the truth somehow counts as sabotage. Lisa's encouraging the kids to stay in contact, which is more than I'd manage. She's been civil. Meanwhile, I'm out here entertaining the idea of becoming a sugar baby myself if she gets half of what she's asking for. I might not know the lingo, but I can Google male concubine with standards, if the price is right. My mother-in-law met me at my business with groceries, casseroles, and what I can only describe as emotional hush money. Emily sat in the back seat like a grounded teenager. Apparently, her presence came with strict rules. She opens her mouth, she loses all family support. I was initially pissed. Then I realized I didn't care. I was wearing black jeans and a fitted tee. Let her drink it in. That's the last look she'll get unless she starts following me on LinkedIn. Strangely enough, I wasn't gutted seeing her. No pit in my stomach, no phantom pain in my chest, just stillness. That used to be a person who could break me with a sentence. Now she's a background character in a story I've outgrown. I think I'm actually getting over this. My mother-in-law and father-in-law are back on speaking terms, as predicted. Shared disappointment is apparently a hell of a glue. Emily's behavior has embarrassed them both to the point that casseroles have become a currency of atonement. Matt says his pregnant wife now craves squid sushi and black olives, which is probably how a demon gets summoned. He looks exhausted, but in that new dad-to-be way, not the my wife lit our marriage on fire way. Must be nice. Meanwhile, Bob has started skipping our D&D sessions to spend time with his new girlfriend, which is a betrayal I take personally. I told him I'm going to deep-fake a cheating video of her just to get our game nights back. He laughed. I wasn't joking. Jim's doing great, naturally. Beautiful, loyal wife, solid job, planning a European vacation. Disgusting. If I didn't like him, I'd hate him. At least he's self-aware about it. He texted me, survivor's guilt is real, man. I told him to send me a postcard from Rome and then stubbed my toe on Kevin, my slowly dying plant. Even Kevin's over this saga. It's time. My lawyer said it's probably best to end no contact with Emily and send her a final letter. I think she's right. I sat down to write the letter with a bourbon in hand and Kevin leaning sideways like he was bracing for emotional fallout. It took me 3 drafts before I found the tone, something between obituary and eviction notice. No rage, no sarcasm, just surgical honesty. I started with the facts. That I appreciated her cooperation in the legal process, her affidavit for Lisa, her decision to seek therapy, that her willingness to face the truth mattered, but not enough to undo what she'd done. I told her that I wasn't angry anymore, just permanently altered. That what she shattered wasn't a moment or a promise. It was me. The man she knew, the one who would have fought for her through anything, died the day she chose someone else's hotel bed over our home. I told her I didn't hate her. That was too simple. What I felt was more complex. Something like watching a wildfire from a distance. Terrifying, tragic, and far beyond repair. I wrote that I forgave her. But I would never forget. Not the lies, not the manipulation, not the version of herself she tried to sell me as truth. I ended it by saying that reconciliation was no longer an option, not because I couldn't try again, but because I wouldn't survive it. And I like who I'm becoming far more than who I was trying to be for her. I printed it, signed it, and sealed it like a gravestone. Tomorrow, I'll drop it in her mailbox. I dropped the letter off the next morning. No ceremony, no deep breaths or dramatic pauses. Just a quiet walk to her mother's mailbox, a quick slip of the envelope, and a moment standing there like something should have happened. But nothing did. No lightning, no sirens, just birds chirping and a dog barking 2 houses down. Like it was Tuesday. Because it was Tuesday. Funny how the universe never pauses for personal collapse. On the walk back to my car, I felt lighter. Not joyful, not victorious, just unburdened. Like I'd finally stopped carrying around someone else's guilt in my own chest. I didn't look back. There was no need. That chapter's done, printed and filed in some cosmic archive under lessons I shouldn't have had to learn. Back at the apartment, I deleted her contact, blocked her number again, took down the last wedding photo I hadn't realized was still magnet pinned to the side of my fridge. It didn't even sting anymore. It just looked out of place, like a joke that stopped being funny years ago. I threw it away. Not in a fire, not in some poetic, tear-soaked ceremony, just the trash. Because that's what you do when something no longer serves you. You throw it away. I sat down, poured another bourbon, and texted Jim. It's done. He sent back a single word. Proud. I stared at it for a long time. Not because I needed the validation, just because it felt like the right final word. And just like that, another page turns. If you're still with us, thank you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment if you've ever been blindsided by a decorator or outmaneuvered by a nail tech. Stay tuned for part 5, where the fallout might be over, but the aftermath is just getting interesting.